行くぞ。
Based on the legendary king of the Franks of the 8th and 9th century AD, in Fate Extella Link, Charlemagne is an energetic and recklessly brave saber-class servant who is the first warrior to rush to your side. But does he have the skills it takes to live up to his legend, or are his stories nothing more than hot air? Let's dive right in to see what he can do and how he stacks up in this impressive cast. Charlemagne has a string of 5 normal attacks, where he will slash left, spin slash right, dash forward and thrust, do a big spinning attack, and then finish with a big jumping smash. Despite Charlemagne being the easy-to-learn starting servant for this game, disappointingly, I think his normal string is actually a bit below average. His last attack has an especially slow build-up, with a disjointed hitbox due to his little jump that I found frequently makes it go past where exactly I wanted it to hit. This can be accounted for, but it just makes it not as worth it. Let's go ahead and move on to his unique attacks. For his heavy attack, he will just dash and thrust, and if this looks familiar, that's because it's basically just the same attack from his normal string. They do have some differences, however, due to this version actually sending your enemies flying back, which in turn makes this your quickest option for creating space. This allows you to escape them, sure, but more likely you're going to do this so that you can follow up with an active skill or some other kind of attack. Next up, his C2 is a big sweeping attack upwards to knock his enemies into the air. In general, the C2 slot on all of these characters is usually a juggler or rising aerial, and as you can see for Charlemagne and many others, he stays on the ground, which makes it used for juggling single foes. If you want, you can manually jump up to continue attacking your launch target, with the only thing to note being that his aerial finisher doesn't go directly down like a lot of other servants. Rather, it sends Charlemagne flying forward before landing on the ground. Next up, he will do another type of dash, but this one ends with a big area slash. This attack also leaves your enemies frozen, so it is another great way to set up for further stronger attacks. Alternatively, you can just repeat this over and over again and get tons of damage on many valuable targets. Normally, I'm not really a fan of attacks that have dashes before they're executed, if only for how much it messes with your camera in a very awkward way before you finally hit your enemy. But the freezing status effect caused by this one actually kind of makes it worth it. If you find yourself having trouble in any situation, just try repeating this for a bit of easy cheese. For his next unique attack, he will do a jumping spin with his weapon before slamming it right where he lands, which of course is very similar to his final normal strike, but it's executed much faster here. You're able to freely divert which direction he goes before doing this attack, so it can be a good way to change position if you think an enemy is about to hit you from the side or back. Or you could just launch yourself into a sizable group of enemies if you're currently trying to rack up KOs. For Charlemagne's final unique attack, he will quickly charge his sword and send out one fast, slightly long range fire slash. The speed and range of this attack makes it an excellent option for dealing damage to multiple foes. Overall, this set gives Charlemagne a lot of options. He has a juggler in his C2, which I personally think is far more useful than an aerial rise, and his C3, 4, and 5 do forward damage, area damage, and close/range damage respectively. His C1 does exactly what it should do, so overall, I have few complaints. Let's go ahead and jump over to his active skills. In the active skills sections here and with all other characters, I'm going to briefly demonstrate what each skill does according to its own description, before giving my general take on them as well as suggesting skills that you should use in your own builds. Let's go ahead. 1. Musou-Like Charge. Summon a rain of shining swords in front of you. 2. Tornado. Shoot frost balls along with a wind-infused strike. 3. Eruption. Slam the ground to send up rocks, then shoot a sweeping attack infused with flame. 4. Musou-Like Pursuit. Briefly summon the incarnations of the 12 paladins, who will automatically pursue enemies in addition to your normal attacks. 5. Musou-Like Circle. Cause shining, explosive swords to rain down around you. 6. Astolfo's Spear. Transforms Joyeuse into Astolfo's Golden Lance and performs a sweeping attack, stunning any enemies it hits. And 7. Lumière du Soleil. Consolidate and concentrate the power of the 5 great elements into Joyeuse, then unleash a full attack. Right off the bat, Musou-Like Pursuit is just a natural choice for almost any build. As long as you can remember to keep it going whenever the skill is refreshed, this is just going to always add to your DPS. Personally, I also think it's just really cool looking and reminds me more than a little bit to a certain scene from Kingdom Hearts. Next up, stun skills like Astolfo's Spear are always welcome as well. Probably their best use is against servants whom you've already hit repeatedly, so you can make sure they're not going to hit you back while you do your next active skill, which, if it's boosted with an install skill or matches your current class, generally leads to rush attacks, which sinks a lot of damage into these tougher foes. Other than these two, you're really free to use whatever active skills you like, but personally I find Eruption and Pseudo-Knight Circle the most effective. Charlemagne actually has 3 saber skills to choose from, so if you're looking to get a lot of damage off through rush attacks, you might want to replace Pseudo-Knight Circle with Lumiere du Soleil. All in all, I think that Charlemagne has a pretty decent collection of skills. None of them really wow me that much, and to be honest, his buffing skill is very interesting, but it's not as useful as the other skills out there which buff everything you do in a more direct way. Because we have nothing else to add about Charlemagne's Drive Attack and Noble Phantasm, they don't have any extra effects on him for instance, let's step back now and take an overall look at this servant to see where he stands. In most Warriors-type games, the first character encountered, especially one who takes such a prominent role in the story like Charlemagne, is usually meant to be the most generic jack-of-all-trades. Typically, these characters don't end up being at the very top of the roster, but are still relevant by the time the player has sunk their teeth into some of the more wild or powerful builds out there. To be honest, this kind of sums up Charlemagne. All in all, I'd say his playstyle contains a collection of serviceable attacks. This doesn't make him bad, but it doesn't make him great either. While I do think that he should fall somewhere in the middle of the overall cast, he's probably not at the top of that range.
Kingdom Hearts, fill me with the power of darkness.
You're wrong. I know now, without a doubt, Kingdom Hearts is light.
I'd like to give a special thank you to my top patrons Minute Rice, Henry Gutierrez, and Ignis Isel, as well as everybody else who's currently supporting me on Patreon. Thank you all very much.